the Honorable Chief Justice, Martha Koome, the Honorable Deputy Chief Justice, Philomena Milu, the Honorable Justice, Linaola. It's a pleasure to have you in our midst today. And Honorable Koome, in about 6 days from today, if my math is correct, it will be exactly 9 months since you assumed office as the 15th Chief Justice of Kenya. So at only 9 months, I think congratulations are still in order. And for those of us who joined the media world in the late 90s, and there are quite a number of us, we do lay claim to some institutional knowledge of your journey, CJ, from your days in FIDA, and also in the trenches of the struggle of democratic reforms. That, of course, we all know started in the 90s, culminating in the 92 election, and then our consolidation in the later decades. Allow me to make some observations from a media point of view and hopefully provoke some thoughts with regard to the theme of the day towards free and fair elections, efficiency and accountability in the judiciary. I will start by saying elections in Kenya are structured both physically and figuratively as a multifaceted contest. It first starts as a contest between one candidate and another, but then quickly graduates to a contest between the tribe of that candidate and the tribe of the opponent. Then it further mutates into a contest between ethnic groups allied to the tribe of the candidate and the block of tribes supporting the opponent. And as demonstrated on various occasions, elections in Kenya can also degenerate into a contest between the law and anarchy, and even worse, a contest between life and death. But then there is one constant about elections in Kenya. Everyone always looks forward to them. Every Kenyan looks forward to elections. Kenyans love elections, even if they actually hate them. I know this is quite an oxymoron, but in my view, it is another of Kenya's peculiar and enduring realities. This indeed is the reason we feel compelled as media and the judiciary to sit here today and think, work, and hope towards a free and fair election in August. There is another constant that we must also admit about Kenyan elections. The voting process, that is the exercise of lining up, picking the ballot papers, and casting them in ballot boxes, has unfailingly been smooth, orderly, and peaceful. We all know this for a fact about just nearly every election, every general election we've had since 1992. So, in this very early age and early stage of our conversation, we must acquit the Kenyan voter. He is innocent. The Kenyan voter is peaceful, dutiful, and devoted to his or her bit of this exercise called the general election. Then comes the next constant that must be admitted about elections in Kenya. Trouble starts and ends with the tallying and transmission of election results. This is the central dilemma of the Kenyan elections and the assured standing invitation for the intervention of the judiciary. But this invitation to the judiciary has in itself been a long journey whose significance to the country and the institution should not be missed. Until the promulgation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the judiciary of Kenya was not considered a fair arbiter of electoral disputes. Before 2010, the corridors of our courts were littered with failed petitions and flooded with tears of petitioners who could not get justice because those times could not simply allow it any other way. And so, we must celebrate the gains occasioned by the Constitution of Kenya 2010, and in particular, Article 160, Sub-Article 1, that guarantees the institutional independence of the judiciary through that solemn instruction that the judiciary shall only be subject to the Constitution and the law, and not by any stretch to the control of any person or authority. The same Constitution, that very same Constitution of Kenya 2010, guarantees the decisional independence of members of the judiciary in ways unimaginable in the decades preceding 2010. Indeed, I read somewhere, but without verification, that there was a judge that in the 80s, I think somewhere 89, got rid of the entire Bill of Rights in his ruling. So it's a he. Now, those are the decades preceding 2010. Now, in 2017, the judiciary made its most consequential intervention ever in matters relating to elections in Kenya. Odinga and another, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, and two others, will for many years, tens, maybe hundreds, maybe many more, be a basis of healthy and rigorous jurisprudential discourse and electoral reference in Kenya. The decision was predictably received along the same patterns of political fault lines that divide our country, and judges took quite a hit, bearing more than their fair share of the burden after their decision. But one must rise above the din of political rupture and ethnic competition to see the decision of the Supreme Court of 2017 for the true value it brought to the future of our democracy and the place of rule of law in Kenya. For the judiciary that had long been criticized for literally sharing the bench with the executive, the judgment in the Presidential Petition number 1 of 2017 is nothing short of a liberation charter. Judges placed rule of law, both substantive and procedural, above the usual political considerations. In 2017, the Supreme Court found the courage that it had lacked in 2013 to decisively confront the menace of manipulation of election results in Kenya. The judges very boldly concluded that the IEBC engaged in various irregularities and illegalities in the transmission of results and other malpractices that affected the integrity of the law. The infamous servers that were never opened despite instructions of the Supreme Court, those servers, wherever they are, constitute corpus delicti in the most absolute terms. That bold and obviously difficult declaration that, quote, the presidential election held on the 8th of August 2017 was not conducted in accordance with the Constitution and the applicable law, rendering the declared results invalid, null, and void, should not be seen through the lenses of our narrow winner-loser mentality and worldview, but through the broad context of the country's unending quest for free, fair, credible, and verifiable elections. As we head to the August polls, we note and appreciate that the Honorable Chief Justice and her team have placed the judiciary on standby to manage any dispute arising at any level of the elections to be held in August. Chief Justice, as you prepare to do that, there are contextual matters that are obviously drawing some curious concern. First, the unresolved, or should I say the incomplete issue of appointment of judges by President Kenyatta, as recommended by the Judicial Service Commission, JSC, and as reiterated by the Chief Justice herself, continues to put to test the principle of trias polita and the doctrine of separation of powers as earnestly aspired by Article 166 of our Constitution. This issue, we know, has been one of the weightiest on your desk, and I know it's not even 9 months yet. We are curious, how will this play out in the end, and what will the aftermath look like, especially in relation to our aspirations for a system of checks and balances instructed by the Constitution. We're looking forward to your thoughts on this. Secondly, the legal field has for the last 4 years or so been littered with cases of executive defiance of court orders. Court orders have been defied so blatantly, in some cases, in a way that pushes Kenya very close to that society without law, spoken of by Thomas Hobbes, where life was short, brutish, and nasty. Defiance of court orders continue to shake the pillars of our justice system and the whole ecosystem that rests on the rule of law. And as L.J. Clyde noted in Johnson v. Grant, defiance of court orders does more than stripping the court of its dignity. Contempt of court challenges the very fundamental supremacy of the law. Our own Justice George Odunga in Judicial Service Commission versus Speaker of the National Assembly and the Attorney General made what I sadly want to call a futile reference to Article 10 of the Constitution, reminding all, especially state officers, that the rule of law is actually listed as one of our national values and principles of governance. Honorable Chief Justice, we're looking forward to your take on the state of the rule of law. Thirdly, a precedent was written on the 1st of September 2017 when Supreme Court judges by a majority bravely annulled a presidential election that before them fell short of the legal and constitutional standards of verifiability. I personally consider the 2017 landmark judgment Kenya's version of Roe v. Wade in the United States, not in substance, but in principle. I choose to compare it to Roe v. Wade and not Bush versus Gore of 2000, because quite frankly, as Kenyans, we've had more than one version of our own George Bush versus Al Gore. Let me remind you of Harun Mau in the Foolscapes in 1993. Let me remind you of Kenneth Matiba in the petition signature of 1993. And let me remind you, of course, of Mwai Kibaki, who could not get to serve President Moi personally in 1998. Those to me, are our versions of Bush versus Gore. In Odinga v. IEBC of 2017, the Supreme Court walked away from technicalities, folded its sleeves, and asked the IEBC to account for the process of reaching the supposed outcome of the 2017 election. In America, way back in 1973, Roe v. Wade divided the country into those who believed in an unborn child's right to life, and those who believed in a woman's right to choose. In 2017 here in Kenya, Odinga v. IEBC and two others divided the country into those who believed in the numbers given as the outcome of the election, and those who believe in the process of reaching the numbers given as the outcome of the election. In the same way, there has been a race to overturn Roe v. Wade. We are waiting to see whether in Kenya there will be a race to overturn Odinga v. IEBC 2017. In conclusion, Madam President of the Supreme Court, I want to add to two logistical issues related to what the President of the Kenya Editors Guild referred to in relation to how the media and the judiciary should cooperate for the 2022 election. In 2013 and in 2017, Madam President, there were two biggest television shows in this country. The first one was the presidential debate with a lot of viewers, and the second one in both cases was the Supreme Court hearing of the presidential petitions. Those are the two big shows, the two biggest shows on television during election years. I don't know how 2022 will go, but in the same way you are preparing for the rest of the aspects of the election, I urge you to prepare for the biggest television show as well in an election year, which is the Supreme Court hearing. Why I raise this is because there are logistical issues involved, practical issues involved. And we've shared this a number of times with teams from the judiciary because we've had cases like that, including the recent BBI case, so that the setup of the court should factor in television coverage. From sound to cameras, we are going to submit this as a problem the judiciary should also think about, that this is a television event. It's going to be televised, so we must together worry about the quality of the sound, worry about the position of the cameras, and worry about the quality of the entire production. Why this is important, Chief Justice, is because Kenyans are now into the tradition of following the big events on television very, very dutifully and very, very keenly. This is why it's so important, especially in this era of COVID restrictions, to pay attention to the quality of the television feed that comes out of the judiciary cases. Starting, of course, and we would like to already ask that those measures be taken when the ruling, when the judgment on the BBI case comes up, even as we wait for the 2022 elections coverage. We want to say thank you for the past cooperation in terms of allowing media to access these locations. And when I talk of television, I don't mean to exclude photography, which is a very, very big part of this. I don't mean to exclude print journalism, because it is very, very important that journalists be physically present to record the events in traditions we all understand, which is notebook first. On that note, I thank you very much, and I humbly, my leadership, conclude my submission here. Thank you.